Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for our annual St. Patrick's Day concert. I think, judging from the names in the participants window, most of you know Deirdre, but if not, she has been involved um, with Irish and colonial music for quite a long time. um, but you don't need to hear any more from me, so I will disappear and I will turn things over to Deirdre.
Okay, well, thank you for being willing to spend part of your St. Patrick's Day evening um, with me. You're very brave just with me and my instruments here without any accompaniment or other things to obfuscate any errors I make. Um, for this evening, I've selected a number of pieces that are new to me, so we'll see by the end of the evening how that has gone. So you'll know if I've actually learned them or not. And just towards the end, I'll take questions if you have questions, or if you want to put a question into the chat, feel free to do so, and I'll try to notice if the little bubble indicates that you've written something. So we can take questions as we go along if you want. So, what piece am I starting with? The Wild Geese. So I'm going to start with a tune on the, well, not a low whistle, because a low whistle is a little bit too large for me, but a low enough whistle. Um, and the Wild Geese is an air. It dates to the 17th century, and it's referring to all those primarily Irishmen, not as many Irish women, but Irishmen who went to the continent from Ireland, fleeing all various disasters of the 17th, late 17th century after the Treaty of Limerick. So, yeah, I don't think there's too much else to the background of this piece other than it was documented a bit and has been recorded a few times. So this is the Wild Geese and the Gana Fioina. so that was Wild Geese. And moving along, you have to realize how weird it is playing into a silent screen. If any of you've had the experience, it's one thing when you're at a class, but it's so strange. It's so unlike performing in a room with people. Um, so next up, looking at my playlist, going to play a new piece, not new, new to me again, Lá le Pádraig. So Lá é le Pádraig, Lá le Pádraig is the Irish for St. Patrick's Day or Day of the Feast or Festival of St. Patrick. So that's the first piece in this set. And I was looking up about this piece recently, and it does apparently have some lyrics to it. I think they're the lyrics to this melody. I could be wrong, but I believe that they are. And the lyrics are maybe not quite what you expect. It starts with, he goes into the tavern and is sitting with people drinking, and all of these men are trying to impress this lovely young woman who's there. And then she expresses her desire for somebody who's frugal. And then he continues for several verses about how the failures of all these other men, and then how virtuous he is. And he what does he say here that sort of sums it up well? That if she goes off with one of these guys, she'll be a gold blahach gera la prati teta, drinking sour buttermilk with reheated potatoes. So it's a curious song, but we'll just be going through the melody. And it comes out of a collection, the tunes of the Munster Pipers, which is I guess the modern name for the James Goodman manuscripts. They were collected, or James Goodman collected the tunes in the I don't know, early to mid 19th century. So there's a lot of sort of possibly pre-famine like repertoire here. So it's a very good collection if there are any musicians out there interested. So we'll start with Lá le Pádraig, and then after that I'll be playing the Bush Hornpipe, which is the name of some hotel and is not actually associated with the tune. It's just where the tune was recorded one time by the Sligo Roscommon flute player Josie McDermott. And then the last piece is a tune on Cashlan Or that I learned off of Radio na Gaeltachta, and that means the Golden Castle. So we'll start with Lá le Pádraig and then go on to two hornpipes. Just give me 1 second here to make sure my flute is still in good working order. All right. Let me just check. No questions. Again, if you have any questions, you can put them into the chat, or I'm going to leave like 10 minutes at the end for questions. So let's see. Next up, pardon me that I keep looking over this way where I have my list, are some jigs. And the first one, again, these are all sorry, I just got a question. Are you Irish? Yes, of Irish descent. By like 150 years, but yes. All right, so the first one is Trip to the Cottage. If you're wondering about names of tunes, there's, who knows why. There's any number of reasons they have the names they have, and a lot of them have many, many names. Yeah, Trip to the Cottage, which is one I learned again off of Josie McDermott's recording. It's a popular enough tune, apparently. And the second one is Footing the Turf, and it was composed by Carmel Gunning, who's from the same region in Sligo as Josie McDermott, in and around Loch Arrow in South Sligo, which is known for its music, and she's a whistle and flute player and singer and ox player, I think, as well. And the last one is another composition of hers, Corin Hill, and she recently put out a collection of her compositions, and I thought I would finally learn some of the tunes out of that. So these are more recent Irish tunes from, the past 40 years as opposed to the past 200 years. So again, Trip to the Cottage, Footing the Turf, and Corin Hill. Second one is a little similar to the first one, so hopefully I won't go back into the first one when I mean to change. All right, here we go. right. Well, let's see. What is next here? Okay. So next up, we have the rose in the gap and the gay lass, which, if anyone's wondering, that's not it doesn't have the same meaning in other points in time as people might ascribe to it now. Just means she's very merry. And the rose in the gap is a piece out of the Donnellan collection, which was recently cleaned up and published by, or not published, but I don't know, assembled, cleaned up, made user friendly by the fiddler Jerry O'Connor. And this is a piece that he had recorded with his unfortunately deceased musical partner Ethna Old years ago on a Law Lou recording. And it's actually the title of his issuing of the Donnellan collection as well, Rose in the Gap. However, the Gay Lass is really the same tune as the Rose in the Gap, but with a change of time signature and a few other adjustments. And it's found in a, I don't know, early 19th, 1805, something like that, collection by, oh, what's his first name? I don't know his first name. O'Farrell, we'll just call him O'Farrell, his pocket companion for the Irish or Union pipes, better known as the uilleann pipes nowadays. And O'Farrell himself was a piper and a collector and, I don't know, all around accomplished guy. And there are a lot of good Irish and Scottish tunes in his collection. But anyway, so it's the same tune, two different versions of it. Hopefully I won't get as lost between the tunes as I did in that last set. So here we go, the Rose in the Gap and the Gay Lass. And I will answer that question after this set. So that was Rose in the Gap and the Gay Lass. I have a question here about what the difference is between a hornpipe, jig, and reel. So in that last set, you'll hopefully have noticed that there was um, a different feel between the two tunes, and it wasn't necessarily a change in the mood of the piece per se. There's a little bit of that going on. They're a little bit different, even though they're the same. So it wasn't a issue of the key there. It was the time signature. So the first one is listed in the collection as a reel. I was playing it more as I don't know what, not exactly a march, but not a reel is usually a kind of a faster piece with a bit more momentum and urgency. So the first one was in 4/4 and the second one was in 6/8. So you can take a beat, you know, like that, and then you can divide it between, say, 2 and 3, which is generally what's happening in this kind of music. So, you know, 1 2 1 2, or 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, or you know, you could the one that's in 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. So you can divide beats in different ways. So that's the difference between, say, a reel and a jig. The jig's in 6/8. A reel is in 4/4. A hornpipe is basically the same as a reel, except you play it with a little more swing. Not that you can't play a reel with swing, but you might, I don't know, like. That kind of swing to the notes is a classic Irish hornpipe. But for anyone who's involved fife and drum, you know that a fife and drum hornpipe is like an Irish reel. It just sort of goes right through, destroying everything in its path. So anyway, that's the answer to that question. And I'll take the next question, I guess, after the next set. What is the next set, though? Let's check here. Oh, okay. Right, so set on the whistle. And these will be some reels on the whistle. Hopefully they'll go better than those jigs. It's interesting. You perform for a long time, or play in various types of musical settings, and I never would have thought that this is the most intimidating one out of all of them. So this set is starting with the Golden Keyboard, which was composed by Martin Mulhare. But the version that I have was given to me by my whistle teacher many years ago, Dennis Galvin, who was a box player. So he played other instruments too, but he was really a box player. So sometimes his tunes have kind of he gave me sort of a box version. It's a little bit different than how the whistle plays, I think. And the next one after that is Black Haired Lass, a version that I learned off of a Mary Bergen recording. And then the last one, the Cross Keys, is another composition of Carmel Gunning's from her new collection. And yeah, I was looking at it and sort of rolls off the fingers. It might roll right onto the floor this evening. We'll see. So Golden Keyboard, Black Haired Lass, and the Cross Keys. Apologize. Wind instruments and spit are a problem. All right. All right, there's some questions here. I'll just take a look over. Um, First question here is, which is harder, is learning Irish melodies or the Irish language? Well, they both require basically daily practice if you want to get anywhere. And as much immersion as you can get. I guess there are more chances to play tunes than talk with people, but yeah, they're similar in a way. And let's see, are all those fast notes part of the tune, or are you adding your own ornaments? Well, it depends when we say fast notes, exactly what we mean, but there are a lot of ornaments that are added in, like rolls, or your sort of classic Irish ornament. They can be overdone. It's tempting maybe to overuse them. And they're like that kind of ornament is thrown in a lot, as well as maybe some triplets. With Cormel Gunning's tunes, other than adding the rolls where it's sort of expected, or it's common practice to add them, I've not tried to alter her pieces because she's alive, and it's generally you want to kind of respect the composer. But a lot of these tunes are by anonymous people, and it's common practice to vary the tunes and whatnot, which I would have done with those jigs had they actually come out of the whistle correctly. But yeah, it's common to add ornaments. Some ornaments are typical ones people add in specific places, but then when you do a little more of your own variation on a tune, you might put in, some other, rolls or cuts or triplets or things in less expected places, or you'll rework a phrase. And did you memorize all the notes and play these songs? Yes, we all do that all the time with Irish music, lots of folk music forms. So, yep, memorization. It's just what you do with this music. But you learn how to, it becomes just natural. It's a natural process once you get used to it, and you get used to the music, and you know sort of where it might go. All right, how are we doing for time? Okay, so, okay. Now for something different. I write these down as waltzes. They're not really waltzes. They're really songs. Originally, probably. Some of them, I think, have lost their lyrics. But I call them waltzes on here because they're in 3/4, so they have that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 to go back to that question about tune types. And all of these come out of some of the early collections I'd mentioned, the Goodman manuscripts that are tunes that were collected in Munster in the 19th century. 400 tunes from one uilleann piper, apparently. Speaking again to memorization there. And the other guy, yes, Mr. Petrie, George Petrie, and his 1,000 tunes. And he was another 19th century collector, a Scottish descendant man who collected tunes all around Ireland. And it's a great resource, again, for any musicians, the Petrie collection. I would also recommend. So the first one is on Brianach Og. That means young Brian. The second one is called the Old Coolan. That's probably not its original Irish name, but Coolan can refer to a lovely young woman. Originally, it referred to a hairpiece. There's a famous Irish air, the Coolan. But this is the Old Coolan here. And then the Good Boy, I guess it'd be on Buchel Ma if it was an Irish. And then the last one is on Ceann Dubh Dílis, and that means the deer head of black hair. And that one is a song with some lyrics, and what do they say here? A Vainlín Mala, Will bulla na tima airs dinna gun cree nach dorhag ditch gra. Mouth of honey that has the smell of time. It is a heartless man that would not love you. So I hadn't looked at the lyrics ever, but looked at them this week. So it's all, you know, steamy stuff there from 19th century Ireland or earlier. A lot of these tunes are older than when they were collected. So yeah, and some of you who I know will recognize maybe the first three from the recording Unknown Baroque. The last one though is one that usually myself and a few others have played at the end of the night for the colonial balls at the Wayside Inn. So I substituted this in because it's a really nice nice tune. Haven't had a chance to play it in a while. So here we go with a bunch of song airs. All right. Um, I have a request to tell people about the instruments. Okay, 1 second. Um, well, this is a flute, and it's an Irish flute made by the very lovely flute makers, the Windward Flutes up in Nova Scotia, and it is made out of Brazilian tulip wood. It not a wood that the Irish would have had access to. The flute came into Irish music in the 19th century, taking the cast-offs of flutes elsewhere as the more modern flute took hold in Europe. Now, this flute doesn't have any keys. It was sort of bought as an emergency flute, but I'm quite fond of it. Not doing it as much justice tonight as I would like, but that's how it goes. But often Irish flutes will have keys as well, usually up to maybe 6 keys. Personally, I prefer maybe just one key to get a D sharp. I think that's really all you need for this kind of music. But it's an instrument that you use an embouchure, so you form your mouth into a shape and you blow into it, and hopefully some sound comes out. Very much affected by your muscle tension and how you've been exerting yourself, or if you're terrified of playing music into Zoom. And then the other instruments that I have are just 2 whistles this evening. This whistle is in D. This is the kind of whistle you play at a session with other musicians. Hopefully you'll be in tune with them. Not guaranteed, not always frequent occurrence, but you try. Everybody's on a D instrument or playing in a key that will play with these instruments. And then this is a B flat whistle. So it's a little, if I play the note D on here and I go to play that note on here, it actually isn't the same note technically, but that's another subject. But you see it's a lower version of the same instrument, a little mellower. Like I said earlier, I really like the low whistles, the really big low whistles, but you have to have the right size hands for them. And it's a bit of a strain for me. I risk injury when I play them. So those are and again, you blow, and for this you're blowing into this head joint here. It's called like a fipple. So you don't have to create an embouchure. You just blow into it. It's like a recorder. So that's what the instruments are for this evening. Whistles have been around forever. These are fancy whistles, especially that higher one, because I can tune it, adjust it if the notes aren't quite right with other people. All right, let's see. Let's I'm going to play another set on the flute, and then I think a final set on the B flat whistle. And then I'll answer that next question in between these 2 sets. So yeah, I should tell you what I'm playing. Carolyn's Cup. It is a tune that has been falsely attributed to Turlough Carolyn, the great Irish harper, composer, drinker, brawler, all those good things from the late 17th century to the early 18th century. So it's been falsely attributed to him because it's a very nice tune. So people tend to think if there's a very elegant Irish tune that has a sort of maybe less folksy sound, that O'Carolyn must have written it because he was influenced by some of the music from the continent at the time and some of the Baroque musical forms. However, the Irish could in fact generate elegant tunes without O'Carolyn's help. So this is one of them, but it's been given the name Carolyn's Cup. But it's been played around a bit over the years, used as a melody for words and that kind of thing. And the next piece after that is another one I got out of the version I'm playing. I got out of O'Farrell's, and it's called Humors of Glen. And let's see, it was it's actually could be Scottish originally, I'm not sure. It traveled around a lot in the 18th century and was used in the 1783 play, The Poor Soldier, which was a comedy about Irish soldiers returning after their service with the British Army during the American Revolution. And I think it's some kind of, I don't know, I think there's some sort of romantic trouble in it and that kind of thing. And it was performed at Covent Garden and was apparently popular with George Washington. So it was a performance that got around. This tune was used as one of the songs in it, Humors of Glen. So Carolyn's Cup and Humors of Glen. All right, so it's Carolyn's Cup and Humors of Glen. And there's a question here, what is the D flat flute made of? Well, I don't have a D flat flute. I have a D flute. This is made out of Brazilian tulip wood. And I have two whistles. This is a composite material of a wood that I can't remember, and a plastic. A lot of this guy, Pat O'Riordan's whistles are, well, maybe not a lot of them, but at least the ones that I've encountered are composite materials, whereas this is a Michael Burke whistle and it's brass whistle. But yeah, there's whistles that are made out of wood and a couple of different kinds of metal, a couple of different kinds of wood, mixtures thereof. Yeah, so there's sort of a wide array of choice nowadays. And another question here, if the flute only came into use in Ireland in the 19th century, what did they use prior to that other than whistles? The fiddle, I forget when exactly the fiddle came into Ireland, but that was a long standing instrument in Ireland. The uilleann pipes sort of come into their full form, so that's the bellows blown bagpipe, if you don't know, with the chanter and the bellows and the drones and regulators on top of that, almost not exactly like a keyboard, but sort of like a keyboard. You can add extra notes. That came into its sort of full flowering in the 18th century, um, and a lot of other instruments like the box and stuff is all accordion. For those who don't know what I'm saying, I realize box accordion. That's the term that's used. That's late 19th into the 20th centuries. You have that and the melodeon and concertina. The premier Irish instrument for a long time had been the harp, but that was very much tied to the Gaelic aristocracy. That the harp was part of the kind of court scene, but then everything that could go wrong did, and that sort of fell apart. So the harp sort of faded, didn't exactly totally fade out of existence, but mostly did for a time. But there are people working on sort of reviving that, specifically the Irish wire-strung harp. All right, so I'm going to play one more, well, not really a tune, a song, and then I can take more questions. We could even have questions with like voices instead of the chat if you'd prefer that. So the last piece I'm going to play is called Hugamur Hain on Sauralin, and that means we brought the summer with us. And it's an old song, I think first documented in the 18th century, but it's probably much, much older. It's part of the May Day kind of rituals, well, former May Day rituals in Ireland, and particularly in like Louth, Monaghan area, the music of Oriel, that region, and sort of southeast Ulster, which actually that Donnellan collection, the Rose and the Gap, all that stuff's from there too. And let's see, it's part of the rituals where they carry around this doll around, decorated for May Day. And let's see the chorus, Saura bui olin the grain, Hugamur hain on Sauralin, golden summer from the setting of the sun, we brought the summer with us. So really talking about that garland they carry, and Obalia go balia and the valia na yishin, Hugamur hain on Sauralin, from town to town and home after that, we brought the summer with us. So I thought I'd play this piece this evening just because days are getting longer, and it's not May Day, but people are looking forward to the better weather and maybe, if we're allowed, better times. So times where we can actually like be around each other with spit-producing instruments like these. So Hugamur hain on Sauralin, and the version that I'm playing, even though it's usually a song that's sung, there's this interesting Scottish collection from, I don't know, 1740s, 1750s, put together, collected by James Oswald as 8 volumes, and there's a lot of Irish tunes in it too, and he has this Hugamur hain on Sauralin, and he was very fond of writing variation upon variation upon variation of pieces. So even though this is something that's sung, he writes these instrumental variations. So hopefully I'll remember the variations that I want to play this evening. But it's sometimes some of his variations are a bit gratuitous, but I like this one. But we'll start with the normal melody. Hug my hand on Sauerlin brought the summer with us, probably a very ancient Irish melody. So if anyone would like to ask questions, you can put them in the chat, or I suppose you could unmute yourself and ask a question, but now's the time. If you feel like it, I will wait around and see if anyone does. Otherwise, thank you for joining me this evening and listening to the tunes I have prepared. So thank you, and enjoy your St. Patrick's Day, or what's left of it.
Well, thank you, Deirdre. Thanks for coming tonight and entertaining everyone. I'm sure I'm sure everybody enjoyed it as much as I did. So
nobody tell Carmel Gunning how I messed up her jigs. Still bug me.
Good Mila Margaret, Deirdre, showing what she one my town of the hill room.
Good Mila. All right, I see some questions. How many of these pieces did you learn specifically for this program? I don't know the exact count, but several of them were new to me. Maybe not quite half, but maybe, well, yeah, maybe half. I don't know. Half were new. Some of those songs I played on the flute I performed before. There's a few things I haven't played in a while. So there's either things I hadn't played in a while, hadn't played in front of anyone, or were complete, like, new pieces. It was maybe not the wisest strategy, but so any other questions?
all right, I'll jump back in. If nobody has any more questions, we'll wrap it up for tonight. Again, thank you, Deirdre, so much for doing this for us. It was a lot of fun, and it seems like from the chat, everybody else enjoyed it too.
Good.
Glir.
Feki me hu erbal.
Thanks, Deirdre.
Oh.
Randy.
You're welcome, Randy.
Good to see you.
Yep.
Enjoy the rest of your St. Patty's Day.
Yes, I get to have dinner now.
You're not going to go out to a bar and rabble rouse, huh?
No, I wouldn't be doing that even on a normal Patrick's Day. It's not the time to do that. Everyone should stay at home and drink alone.